There's no denying that Atlus is taking full advantage of Persona 5's monumental popularity by releasing spin-off after spin-off. At the same time, they're not just churning out trash to make a quick buck. From P5 Royal to Dancing in Starlight and Strikers, these are great games totally worth playing. Every game is, on some level, a compromise between the business people who want to make as much money as possible and the creatives who are inspired to bring their artistic vision to life. In this case, it's clear that these games are made with love and care. As we all know, P5 Royal is a masterpiece. Dancing in Starlight is a ton of fun. And Strikers is an interesting crossover into the Musou genre that works surprisingly well. The recently launched Persona 5 Tactica is another entry worthy of attention. I love turn-based strategy RPGs, so I'm happy to report that Persona's foray into the genre is largely successful. One at a time, you move the Phantom Thieves across grid-based battlefields, targeting enemies with ranged, melee, or magic attacks, and taking cover to reduce or nullify incoming damage. Most fights are won simply by defeating all the enemies on the field, but there is enough variety to keep you on your toes. Sometimes you need one or all of your party members to reach a certain area. Many encounters feature switches that open doors or raise elevators when you stand on them, effectively turning battles into puzzles. In other cases, you just need to survive a specific number of turns as waves of enemies close in. Regardless of the win condition, these battles are typically quick and breezy. Many take less than 10 minutes to finish, which gives them an addictive quality. Even after blasting through several in a row, I often find myself thinking, just a couple more. It's a bummer that you're limited to only 3 party members at a time, but you are encouraged to mix it up rather than sticking with a settled party. Those left on the sidelines receive buffs for the subsequent battle. Each character has unique moves too, so it's worth experimenting to find out who best suits your playstyle. Morgana, for example, can use wind skills to sweep enemies across the map, while Haru can hypnotize them, drawing them closer. The Phantom Thieves all level up together, whether they're involved in battle or not, meaning unused characters don't fall behind and become useless. Everything is carefully thought out and well implemented. Tactica smartly repurposes classic mechanics from P5, like one more, all-out attacks, and persona fusion. Instead of targeting enemies' elemental weaknesses, you gain additional turns by attacking exposed foes. And if you're able to surround the enemy, you can use that extra turn to execute a devastating all-out attack. Wiping out a pack of enemies in one fell swoop with one of these super moves is endlessly satisfying, so I felt a constant desire to take my time, carefully consider my options, and make the most of each turn in order to set up such opportunities. Between battles, you can visit the Velvet Room to fuse new, stronger personas. And unlike P5, these aren't exclusive to Joker. They can be assigned to any one of the Phantom Thieves to boost their stats and afford them new abilities. In addition to the main story, there are also optional side quest battles. These are cool because they pose unique challenges, such as finishing a battle within a single turn. They serve as lessons on the game's fundamental mechanics. To complete them, you'll have to learn how to gain as many extra turns as possible, as well as how to take maximum advantage of all-out attacks. Overall, I found the side quests to be both the most challenging and consequently the most rewarding part of the entire game. Although higher difficulty settings are available, I chose to play Tactica on normal mode, and I found the main story battles pretty easy. For that reason, it's great to have optional content that provides variety and a greater degree of difficulty than what the main game offers. There's just the right amount of content, too. I'll admit, when Tactica was announced, I was concerned that it would end up being another 100-hour time commitment. I don't have a problem with long games if they earn their length. Persona 5, for example, takes a million years to finish, and it's in my top 5 games of all time. That said, too many games these days are unnecessarily long. I appreciate games that know when to end, and Tactica thankfully never wears out its welcome. I did all of the side quests and still finished the story in about 28 hours. The gameplay is deep enough to remain interesting throughout, and there are skits you can watch for fun character banter. But otherwise it's a tight, no-frills experience. Some fans might rue the lack of a social link system, but I'm here for the game's streamlined approach. All in all, Tactica does a commendable job of preserving what makes Persona 5 so special. It has that signature blend of super charming characters, spectacular style, and music so catchy you'll be humming it for days. The story isn't amazing, but it's certainly not bad either. Tactica actually makes a bold choice with its narrative. Although the Phantom Thieves are ever present, the story isn't really about them. Instead, we focus on two new characters, Irina and Toshiro. It took me a while to warm to them, Toshiro in particular, but I did grow to care for them by the end. And while it's not as memorable or thought-provoking as the brilliant P5 Royal, it was ultimately quite touching and worth seeing through to the conclusion. From start to finish, Tactica is a joy. Atlus clearly understands the right way to do spin-offs, preserving the style and mechanics of the original game, but reinterpreting them through the lens of other genres. If I had my way, every major game series would have a tactical RPG spin-off. Final Fantasy Tactics remains one of the greatest games ever made, and though it'll never happen, a great Metal Gear Tactics game is like my biggest dream in life. And look, I get that some people may be growing weary of the Phantom Thieves. We're all hungry for new worlds, characters, and stories. So the good news is that we're getting just that. Persona 6 remains unannounced and tantalizingly out of reach. But there is a major new project on the horizon led by the director of Persona 3, 4, and 5, Metaphor Refantasio. Refantasio. Okay, I don't know how to say that word, but from the little we've seen, the game looks sick. Persona vibes in a more classical European fantasy setting? I'm in. Atlus famously takes a long time to make their games, but they're typically worth the wait. So while Studio Zero is hard at work on Metaphor, and a new team is presumably cracking away at P6, I'm grateful to have fun, creative interstitial titles like Tactica to satisfy my Persona fix in the meantime.